Because sometimes in Christian land, we talk about faith. But I'm not always sure we've placed our faith in the right things. And so when we are praying and we're asking God for things and it doesn't quite manifest the way that we want it to, we lose faith. We lose hope. Sometimes we even get angry with God because he didn't deliver the way that we expected him to deliver. I'm not so sure that that's faith. Our faith is, the Bible says that the faith is substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And it talks about how all the great men of old, the men that we read about in the Bible, this is how the elders obtained their good testimony by their faith. But their faith was not necessarily in what they personally desired. Their faith was in what God had spoken into their lives. Their faith was in God's word. So we have to be really careful that our faith is not in a dream that we've come up with, but that our faith is in what God has spoken to us. Because if you can just hold on to what God has given you in his word, then you will see that faith begins to treat things that are hoped for as a fact. So it's not just an aimless hope. It's a fact. It is. It's a reality. What I am hoping for, it's a fact. And it also places total confidence today in the things that God has promised me for the future. I'm talking about faith. Because the proven character of our faith is worth more than gold. Our faith requires us to believe in God's word even when it is being tested. Now, the old folks used to say that a faith that's not tested cannot be trusted. Come on. So I'm real skeptical of people who've never been through anything, but they say, I believe God. I got faith. Come on. Do you? A faith that has not been tested, can it really be trusted? Because Peter says it's the proven character of your faith. Y'all got to get my sound right. It's the proven character of my faith that is worth more than gold. And that proving involves some testing. By faith, we believe and we know that our inheritance is not perishable. It's not defiled. Pastor C covered that last week, and Peter, we just read it in the scripture. It's not defiled, and it does not fade away. God protects us. He values us. And all of that to me means we win. Amen. Amen. That's what it means every day. It means we win. It means we are more than conquerors every day. Yes. In spite of the situation, we win. Yes. How do you believe that? Yes. Do you believe that you are a winner? Yes. Do you believe that you are more than a conqueror? Yes. Do you believe that the promises of God are yes and amen? Do you believe that? Yes. Do you believe that? Yes. So watch what Peter says. If you believe it, let's look at the same chapter, but let's move down to verse 13. And here Peter says, therefore, meaning, if you know and believe all the stuff that we've just talked about, yes, as a result of what we've just read, therefore, yes, get your mind ready. Come on, come on. He says, get your minds ready for action by being fully sober. And by sober, yes, it can mean please don't be drunk, but it also means exercise some self-control. Yeah. Help us, it means be fully alert. Get your mind right. Yes. The New King James Version says, and I love King James. I love King James Version, even though, it's a lot of these and thous, but I kind of grew up on that, and I don't know. The old folks used to say that's the version that Jesus read. But in the New King James Version, it says, gird up the loins of your mind. Yeah. You all know what that means? Gird up the loins of your mind. Because back in the day, they used to wear robes. And in order to move forward, and in order to move freely, and in order to move uninhibited, they had to pull that robe up and tie it securely around their waist so that they could move forward. So Peter is telling us to gird the loins of our minds. Get your mind ready. Be sober. And set your hope completely on the grace that will be brought to you when Jesus Christ again is revealed. So my subject on today, and y'all know I always have two, so you grab the one that fits you most. My subject is something that I've been preaching to myself for the last 6 months, and that is, I've got to get my mind right.
Come on.
I got to get my mind together. And what that means to me, and this is subject number 2, take whichever one speaks to you, think like a champion.
Uh-oh, I like that.
Think like a champion.
Yes.
And a champion is just a winner. We just said that we believe that we are winners, and we said that we have faith in God. So if you believe that, if you think like a champion, you will be a champion. Somebody say, think like a champion.
Think like a champion.
Last fall, Pastor C and I had the opportunity, and some of you in here had the opportunity to hear Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps speak. First of all, he is a giant of a man. I don't know why I think swimmers should not be so tall, but he just seems massively tall to me. He's the most decorated athlete in Olympic history. Michael Phelps, as you know, phenomenal swimmer. He's won a total of 28 medals, wow. 23 of them gold.
Wow.
That's unheard of. No one else has ever attained anything close to that. So as I sat and I listened to Michael Phelps, just his thought process began, it was intriguing to me, because there had to be something different about Michael Phelps, this Olympic gold winner, multiple times over. I needed to know what's in your head. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And so I began just to do a little research. Those of you who know me know that I like details and I like facts. So I started just doing a little research on just the mindset of winners, particularly the mindset of Olympic gold winners. And as I began to do that research, there were a couple of things that really stood out to me, and I'm going to share that with you today. But as I began to compare the mindset of these winners, and I began to compare those to the mindset of the people that we read about in the Bible every day, there are some similar characteristics. There are some similar takeaways, whether you're talking Abraham or Sarah, or whether you're talking Jacob, whether you're talking about Joseph, who is one of my favorites. We're going to talk about Esther today. But they all have these similar characteristics that I found among Olympic gold winners. Y'all want to know what they are?
We're ready.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share with you. Queen Esther, I don't know how many of you know the story about Queen Esther, but basically she is one that defied the odds and became queen. One of the things that I found in my research on these winners is that, you know, sometimes we see these people at the top of their game and we see them doing great things, and we assume that their whole life has been peaches and cream.
Come on.
Right? It's easy to see people at the top of their game and you think, oh, they were just born into this. They were just born this way. Like my husband jokes and says, oh, my wife was born at the altar. She's been saved since birth. Well, not quite. Right? I wish there were things, but I got a story. But instead, what I found is that their lives they weren't dominated by accomplishments, by a whole string of accomplishments before they won the gold. Instead, they constantly encountered all kinds of setbacks and obstacles. And I thought, oh, that's something I can relate to, right? They didn't have it easy, but the way that they saw a setback was as a setup. And the way they looked at every obstacle, it was more of an opportunity. And so they saw their journey as a path to success. It was a path.
Yeah.
So no matter what the obstacle was, they didn't get stuck and say, this is my destination.
Come on.
They said, I'm still on a path to success. So what I took away from that is, you may not be able to control what happens to you, Sheila Denise, but what you can control is your what? Your attitude. You can't control how you react to what happens to you. So I think about Michael and I began to just research his life, and I discovered that when he was a little boy, he has severe ADHD. And some of you are sitting in this room right now with adult ADHD, and you're like, ah! Right? You got a million things going on in your head. He has severe ADHD. His teachers really didn't expect much from him because of that, because of his inability to focus. When I look at Esther, and I'm going to do a lot of back and forth between Michael and Esther.
Yeah.
When I look at Esther, Esther is a young lady. Yes, we celebrate the fact that she became queen. But she didn't start out as a queen.
Come on.
She didn't even start out as a princess.
Come on.
Esther lost her parents at a very young age, and she was raised by her cousin by the name of Mordecai. They were of very low social status, very low social status. And she was brought into the king's, we'll call it the king's competition. Now, some of you will be excited about this, saying, yes, I might be queen. But let me explain a little more about this king's competition. And this is a good example of how, even though we live in the world, sometimes we are subject to things of the world. Sometimes we are negatively impacted by things of the world, but it doesn't change who we are. We're in the world, but we're not of the world. There are some things that happen to us. There are some things that we experience just because we are here.
Yeah.
But we still control our reaction to it. This woman, the king was looking for a new queen. He wanted a new queen. And so what they decided to do, and what he decreed would happen, was that they brought hundreds and hundreds of virgins together. And these virgins were put in what they called a harem house. And each virgin received a year of beauty treatments because she was preparing herself physically to go before the king. Now, the competition was when you went before the king, the hope is that you be selected as queen.
Yeah.
Now, it would be different if we were talking about a beauty pageant. It would be different if you just were going to stand before the king and maybe he interviewed you to figure out a little bit about your intellect. It would be different if the king wanted to spend some meaningful time with you and have some meaningful conversation. But let me help you understand what this competition really was. These women prepared for a whole year. And when it was their turn to spend the night with the king, their whole goal was to pleasure him. That don't sound so fun now, right?
No.
You don't control. You can't always control what happens to you. But how many of you know that God's favor remains in spite of the situation? So these women, when it was their turn to spend the night with the king, their whole job was to pleasure him. And if it so happened that they delighted the king enough, two things could happen. He might crown you as queen, or he might send you over to this. First it was a harem house. Now over here it's called the concubine house, which is basically, just women who are available for the king's pleasure whenever he felt like it. So if it went well, yeah, you're going to be in the house, but do you know that they faced a real possibility that they may never be called by the king again?
Wow.
So they have this night of pleasure, and then they go over here and sit in the house and hope that he even remembers my name.
Wow.
Hope that he ever just called me one more time. And if he never called them, they lived this life of obscurity because now you belong to the king. And so they just lived in the house with everybody else who had spent the night with the king, just waiting.
Wow.
I can't always control what happens to me.
Come on. Come on.
But the favor of the Lord helps me to control my attitude and to think like a winner.
Yeah.
Because in spite of this crazy situation and in spite of this crazy world and in spite of the crazy things that we encounter, we've got to find a way to get our minds right. And if we really believe that God is in control, I'm like, God, I know that you're intentional. I don't know why I'm a part of this silly competition, but I trust you. I don't really know where Esther's mind was. I'm not sure what she felt. I don't know if she was numb. How would a small child feel when they've lost their parents? I don't know what emotion she was bringing into this thing. But when I read the book of Esther, all I see is that her character is described as, yes, physical beauty, but it also talks about her inside beauty. It talks about her humility. It talks about her as a wise woman. It talks about her ability to be obedient and submit to authority. It talks about the favor of the Lord that is upon her life in spite of the situation. So it looks to me that Esther decided to choose to be better and not bitter. In spite of everything that she went through, she decided to be better and not bitter. So what God is telling us today is, regardless of your situation, there are things that happen to you. There are things that we have experienced we have no control over. But today, think like a champion. Yeah. Get your mind right. And remember the promises that we read earlier in 1 Peter. Remember that your inheritance is certain. Remember that God values you and that he will protect you. Yeah. Remember that the proven character of your faith is worth more than gold. So it's not time to quit. It's not time to have a losing attitude. It's not time to be depressed and give up. But it's time to say, I choose to be better and not bitter. Yes. All right. Come on. Another thing that I found out about these Olympic athletes and these just winners. Amazingly, adversity does not break them. But adversity tends to make them.
Come on.
Adversity doesn't break them, but some kind of way they tell these stories, and the worst thing could have happened in their lives, and those things seem to have catapulted them forward. So it did not break them, but it made them. My mother, my parents, some of you have heard me tell the story. My parents, y'all, they have been married for almost 60 years. Isn't that a blessing? They've been married for almost 60 years. Yes. Bishop and First Lady. They've been married for almost 60 years. And for the most of their marriage, they have been in the same house. But God just blessed them to not only purchase a new house, but to build what they wanted. Oh. And I am so happy for them. I am just like, I am so proud of you guys, because I believe they deserve it. And I believe that they are a living example of just the favor of the Lord.
Amen.
So, their biggest challenge is figuring out what to do with this 60 years of accumulated stuff. And how much of this stuff do I take in my new house? I told you that champions, adversity doesn't break them, but it makes them. And part of the reason is because for every experience that they have, they realize that they can't take everything, but they just need to take enough of the right things. Because everything cannot go with you. Everything is not going to fit in the new place. Everything isn't going to fit in the new house. There are some things that worked really well over here. But where God is taking you, some of it just won't go. That's right. That old record player, that big old stereo that we've had in the house for 60 years, that shouldn't go to the new house. There's no place for that. When I look at Esther, what did this mean for Esther? When it was Esther's turn, after her year of beauty treatments, they came and they said, Esther, it's your turn. It's your turn to go before the king. And when you got prepared to go before the king, you could take whatever you wanted to take with you. Whatever you thought was going to help you find favor with the king. You can take all this baggage from your past. You can take bitterness. You can take a little bit of hatred if you want to. You can take some revenge. You can just be angry. You can take whatever you want to take. Whatever you think will bring delight to the king. You can take that. But what Esther said, and you all, I encourage you to read the book of Esther. What Esther said was, I don't need to take any more than I need. I don't need to take anything extra. I don't need to take my hurt. I don't need to take my pain. I don't need to take just the weight of disappointment. I don't need to take my fear. I don't need to take any of that with me. But what I will take is my faith. Because I don't know what I'm stepping into, and I don't know why God is allowing me to be subject to this. Yeah. But God, I'm choosing to think like a champion. And as a champion, as a winner, I know that you are with me. And I know that you would not let anything happen to me that is outside of your will. So I'm going. She didn't take everything with her, but she took enough of the right things. You all say enough of the right things.
Enough of the right things.
Take your integrity. Walk in the spirit of humility. Be kind in spite of what you've been through. It's so easy for us when we have experienced adversity and just stuff. It's so easy for us to carry the weight of that. And sometimes we carry it and it's so heavy that it changes who we are. It changes how we see the world. It changes even our receptiveness for what God has for us. Don't take that stuff with you. Take your character. Yeah. Take your integrity. Now don't waste the things that you have been through. Because I'm just crazy enough to know and to think that even the crazy things are working together for my good. Yeah. So if the crazy stuff, if it's all working together for my good, then I'm looking through this trash. I'm looking through this junk, and I'm trying to decide, God, what do you want me to take from this experience? God, what is it that I can learn from this experience? God, what is it that you want me to take away? Because I can't take everything. But I need to take enough of the right things so that I can move forward into what God has for me. Another characteristic that these winners had is that they simply choose to win. Winning is a choice. And you would think that most of them are thinking, I've got to win the gold. No, most of their mindset was more around, I have to do my best. Yeah. I got to give it everything I got. I have got to give my potential. Whatever that is, I've got to live that out. They choose to win. And so my question for you today is, have you chosen to win? Come on, we got to get our minds right, because you guys were screaming and clapping earlier when I talked about your inheritance that was not perishable. And that your inheritance wasn't defiled. Y'all were happy. So when the testing comes, when the proving of your faith comes, can you choose to win? Because winning is a choice. Because God has already told us that we win.
Yeah.
So if he has already declared it before the foundations of the world, all we have to do is choose to think it. As a man thinks, so is he.
Yes.
So if I can just think it, if I can just think it, I promise you I can walk it. If I can just think it, I promise you I can believe it. If I can just rest on the promises that God has given me, I guarantee you that I will choose to win. Every time. Every time. And winning doesn't always feel like winning. And sometimes we get discouraged because, okay, we're thinking like a winner, but we're not seeing a win. You've just got to trust and know that God's in that too. And you've got to believe. If you really believe the word of the Lord, choose to win. And there were so many things, y'all. I feel like that the Lord gives us experiences as preachers. I can talk because I am one. I feel like sometimes he lets us go through stuff just so we can have fuel for the message sometimes. And I am like, for this last week, last 2 weeks, last month, every single day, crazy stuff is happening. And I say, think like a champion, girl. Lord, help me to get my mind right. Help me to see this right. Help me not to slap her. Lord, help me to get my mind right. Because I choose to win.
Yeah.
Y'all laugh because you know it's true. So mental and spiritual agility. Agility is just nimbleness, the ability to move quickly in the face of adversity separates champions from non-champions. It's what tends to pull them to victory. Mental, spiritual agility. Sometimes, I believe it was Joyce Meyer. She wrote a book, and it's I think it's entitled "The Battle of the Mind," or "The Battle is in the Mind."
The battlefield.
The battlefield of the mind. Thank you. Because that's where the enemy plays. If he can just get you to think like a loser. If he can just get you to think like a failure. If he can just get you to think, oh, since I've been rejected, I must have no value whatsoever. If he can just get you to think off, I promise you, you will be off. But we've got to have the mental agility, the spiritual agility. That's where our faith kicks in. The proven character of our faith is worth more than
gold.
We've got to have it in order to move forward. So, Esther, God's favor was upon her life. In spite of the craziness, God's favor was upon her life. In spite of the craziness, God's favor is upon your life.
Right, that's right.
She becomes queen. It's a wonderful thing. She becomes queen. And you all know the story. Her cousin Mordecai was always around, making sure that his cousin was okay.
Come on.
So he was always around. But Mordecai wouldn't bow to one of the king's high-ranking officials. He just refused to bow down. He was like, I bow to Christ, and you're not him, so no. And so the enemy by the name of Haman became very angry with Mordecai. And he decided, I'm going to take you out. And sometimes in our lives, we refuse to bow down. Sometimes in our lives, we refuse to compromise our faith. And because of that, I guarantee you the enemy is planning to take you out. And it's funny, because we win. The enemy is planning to take you out.
Yeah.
But my inheritance is not perishable. And my inheritance does not fade away. And the proven character of my faith is worth more than gold, because I am attaining the goal of my faith, which is salvation. So therefore I win.
Yes.
I know the enemy is planning things against me, but I still win. Lord, help me to think like a champion. Help me to get my mind right. So Mr. Haman decides, that he would look too petty if he just said, I just want to kill Mordecai.
Yeah.
That would make him look real small. So what he said was, he went to the king and he said, King, there are a people among us. Look at all these sanctified folks in here. There are people among us who, they look different. They don't really do life the way that we do life. They don't really value what we value, and they're sort of, I don't know, I just feel like they could create issues for us.
Yeah.
These are the conversations that the enemy and his imps have about you. When you're at work, and for whatever reason, everybody seems to be able to get together, but for whatever reason, they leave you out because you look different. There was something, I don't know what that is, but we need to take that down. We need to destroy that. And so the king said, oh, really? Okay. Well, sure, let me go sign off on that decree. You're going to kill all of them. Just take them all out. So he's basically planning to kill all the Jews. So listen to this. I love the story of Esther. It is so much in there.
Yeah.
So they plan to kill all the Jews. And the word gets to Mordecai. Mordecai, to me, is just a pillar of faith. And there's something about faith. We walk around and say we have faith because we believe. Well, I believe that if you are a believer, you do. Amen. Believers are doers. Amen. It doesn't just mean that we aimlessly believe that there is a God. No, because I believe I do. I am confidently obedient to God because I have faith that I believe. So Mordecai said, oh, no, queen, listen. I need you to go to the king because he's trying to destroy all of your people. They choose to win. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. They choose to win. Now, Esther, we see her going from freak out to faith it out. And this is what I mean by that. He said, you need to go to the king and let him know that your people need to be saved. That he cannot kill all of these people. And she said to him, I have not seen or talked to the king in 30 days. He has not desired to call me. And everybody knows that if I go before the king and I have not been requested to go before, everybody knows that I can die. Yeah. I can't do that. That's the freak out moment. And sometimes that's how we feel. We're like, oh, I can't fight this battle. I can't do it. No, I can't. No, this is way bigger than me. This could risk my life. No, I cannot. And then we begin to retreat. Yeah. Some of us know we retreat into isolation and we begin to back up and back out because we begin to freak out.
Yeah.
But winners choose to win. All right. And listen to what Mordecai said. And this is what God is saying to you today. Mordecai said, listen, Miss Esther. Listen, Queen Cousin. Don't think that you will escape death because you are a Jew too. Like, don't forget that you're one of us. Don't get so high and mighty that you forget what your purpose is. No, don't get it twisted. If we go, you're probably going to die too. He also said, if for whatever reason you decide not to step into your purpose, if for whatever reason you decide to shy away from what God is calling you to do right now, I just have faith enough to believe that if not you, He gonna call somebody else to bring salvation. So is it going to be you or somebody else? And that's what God is saying to you today. Is it going to be you? Or will He need to use someone else because you were freaking out and afraid to step into your purpose?
Amen.
The third thing He said to her, He said, listen, have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, that you were brought to the kingdom for such a time as this? Is it possible that you were brought to the kingdom for this very purpose, to bring deliverance to your people? Yes. Now this is her choice, because the facts had not changed. The fact was still there that if she went before the king without being asked, without being requested, that she still could die. Y'all look at me, don't look at the drum. So the facts had not changed. But this is what she said. This is where she chose to win. This is where she began to think like a champion. This is where she checked her mindset. She said, you know what? This is what I need you all to do for me. Let's fast. So when y'all freaking out and don't know what to do, how about we fast? How about we push some things away and say, Lord, I need to hear from you for just a moment. Lord, I need some direction for you. Lord, I need you to give me some peace. Lord, I need you to speak to me. She said, y'all fast with me. Let's fast and pray for 3 days. And when it was over, she said, you know what? She said, I might die, but if I die, I am going to see the King. And that is what the Lord is looking for from us today. He wants somebody to stand up in the midst of adversity. Yes. And be able to choose to win. And to say, this does not look good, and my life is on the line. But you know what? If I die, I die. Yes. Because my inheritance is still imperishable. Amen. It's still undefiled. Yeah. I'm still winning the goal of my faith. So if I perish, I'm just going to perish, but I'm going to see the King. Yeah. Winners choose to win. Amen. The last thing I want to share, kind of the last thing, is winners tend to visualize success.